We're going live right now, guys. All right, people are starting to join.
Hey, Rebecca, what is the ID to give someone if they need it for this one? I just went the long way in.
The ID number is 818-3042-0114. And I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Hey,
thank you.
just as a heads up, if you click on participants and it shows up on your right-hand side, there's an invite link. You can grab that and paste it to the person.
Okay.
And we're live on Facebook. So Katie, you can take it away, Missy. You have to unmute yourself.
I'm going to hand it over to, got it. I'm going to hand it over to Terry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry Mahoney, president of the Pensacola Bay Area Network. On behalf of the Women's Council of Realtors Florida, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We have a great educational session for you today, but first I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our 2020 strategic partners for their support and flexibility this year. So just a little shout out, everybody clap. Thank you to all our strategic partners. Appreciate you so, so much. Working effectively in a virtual world. This education forum will teach you the ins and outs of working in a virtual world, from managing video conferencing calls and meetings, creating the perfect home office, utilizing virtual showings and home tours, to the latest tips for keeping in touch with your customers. Thank you. You, Katie.
Unmuting. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Katie Bourgeois with the Stuart Martin County Network. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today. We're so excited to have Sam Powell from Pride Homes Chicago, Dreamtown Realty. And I will read her bio. It's quite extensive and fantastic. Real estate is not only a career for Sam Powell, it's also a lifestyle, threaded throughout her work and play. A broker with Pride Homes Chicago, powered by Dreamtown Realty, Sam has nearly 2 decades of experience in real estate and skills to show for it. She says, you can negotiate $1 million deal in shorts, a baseball cap, and flip-flops. You don't have to drive a Lexus to be a successful realtor. Her tagline, real answers, real people, real estate, speaks to the culture she has created with coworkers and clients serving the LGBTQ community in the city and suburbs. She says this is the best career a person who wishes to be themselves 100% of the time can have. It allows that authenticity to be the magnet that attracts customers. And she says, I have the best clients for that reason. Sam pursued a career in real estate after a friend of hers suggested she join him in the industry. A 6-time recipient of the Chicago Association of Realtors Award for Top Producing Teams, Sam has also been recognized by Dreamtown Realty as a top producer for the past 3 years and has received several awards for charitable giving from numerous industry organizations. She also gives back by co-hosting weekly workshops for her peers via Zoom, offering them assistance with technical issues and education about apps that might have a meaningful impact on their business. Since 2013, Sam has primarily focused on listings. Her business partner handles the buyer side and rental clients. Clients feel empowered to work with Sam because she helps them understand that they are in the driver's seat throughout the buying and selling process. She says, my role as an educator, responsible for helping, my role as an educator, excuse me, responsible for helping get them super comfortable and confident before the next step. That way, when we're there, they jump through the hoops with confidence and clarity. I love that. So please help me welcome Sam Powell. Take it away, Sam. Thanks so much for being here.
You are very welcome. I'm truly honored to be here. I hope that my audio should be really good because we tested this, but I'm a little slow over here, meaning my connection doesn't appear to be the best. How am I coming across to you guys? Video okay? All right, awesome. Then I'm just not going to worry about it because I don't have to stare at myself in a hot second. So I prepared a presentation, so I'm going to share screen with you guys. And if you notice on some of the later screens, you may see me again, but I've turned that video camera off. I might turn it back on. It's just silly. But I thought I'd explain why I've logged on twice once my system plays nice. And if someone will give me a thumbs up that you can see my business card on the screen. Looks like it's here now. It's another reason to have a secondary computer because I can actually see all of you guys, which is the thing that I care about. So I go side by side on my secondary laptop, and then I make the presentation super, super tiny so I can see much more of you guys. There are 83 of you guys. And just for giggles, I'll show you my other camera. Nothing fancy. But in case you needed another angle of Sam Powell, here it comes. So one of the things I like to talk about is I've been virtual for a very long time. I went paperless in 2006. And so I've been relatively virtual since then. So I like to fondly tease that COVID has brought you guys into my living room in a way that I've been running my business for many years. I don't actually see a clock too well. Yep, it looks like 12:07 over here, so it must be 1:07 for you guys. So I can at least see what's going on. First thing I wanted to do was, if you didn't know me in the room, was introduce you just a little bit, right? So if you don't know me from Adam, this is my why, right? So my wife of 28 years in November, we're not married. We just use that word because it explains that we sleep together. And then we have 2 dogs. So the 2 dogs are represented in the middle. CODIS, named after the DNA database, and Turing, who's named after, they're both females. Turing's named fondly after Alan Turing, a British scientist who helped crack Hitler's code and helped the start to the end of the war. And then on the far right, she will never not be in my presentations, our first baby dog ever together, Aphis, who passed away in February of last year. She is ever present, and so I always will keep her a part of my presentations. One of the things that I'm super passionate about in our industry is freedom. The freedom to, with the technology available to us today, the ability to set up shop anywhere in the world, if there's a strong enough Wi-Fi connection, anywhere in the country, friends, family, work from poolside, you know, the image in the bottom center. We legit put our laptops on towels with a shade umbrella above them, and we'll sneak over there, bang out a little bit of work, answer a call, and then go back to enjoying quality relaxation time together as peers. It's really hard to give 100% of a day to just, you know, shutting down and shutting off work, because we're all type A personalities, as it were. But I like to show that you can have a real estate lifestyle, and that's why I consider this mine. I wear what I want to wear 100% of the time. I behave how I want to behave 100% of the time. And if that repels business, then I wasn't meant to have that business. And if it attracts business, I want to work with people that get this kind of crazy and want to work in this kind of space, right? So being yourself, being your authentic self 100% of the time, and proof that you can be successful doing that and being that, that's my gift to the planet, is emulate your own version of yourself and watch the success that happens around you. So let's get started. Just as an example, when I was helping my sister move into her new place, I set up shop, taught classes, met with clients, did pre-listing presentations, worked remote in Florida. We had some Wi-Fi and technology issues, as you guys have had this morning as well. Technology comes with a solution, right? Meaning it's never going to be perfect. So be mindful, and Christine, you'll hear her talk about this a little more and a little more now, is have a plan B. And what could that plan B look like, right? So in a remote working environment, maybe it looks like having a second or even third Wi-Fi solution, depending on which one might be the strongest. Here in my condo right now, I'm hardwired in, but even with that, our building connection is not that amazing. So I have 2 other Wi-Fi solutions if I needed to tap into them. And just playing it smart, my second laptop, where I can actually see your faces, hi, this is me looking at you guys, see if you're paying attention to any sleepers, is on a different Wi-Fi connection so that it doesn't impede and slow me down over here. My balcony, where Jen and the 3 dogs are right now, is now also a mobile office that I've been enhancing. Now that we're clearly going to be in this environment for some time, and we're not moving out of our condo for some time, is creating it into a space that is meaningful and lovely and comfortable. So for me, that's 2 to 3 umbrellas from time to time. In the evening, bringing out a light, a third-party light, so that I can be better illuminated as we get into the shade. When we were at Network 360 most recently, so if anyone in the room was attending those, you might have seen some of this. I set up shop at one of my best friend's houses because her lighting is just stunning and amazing and beautiful. And so I brought my mobile office there, which still included 2 laptops, 2 different Wi-Fis, and for me, a tablet so that I could bang on some other stuff if I needed to, that was external from being present in the Zoom calls. And this is what I look at right now. So this is my home office that I'm sitting in front of with you right now. So 2 laptops and a monitor, and then all the miscellaneous accoutrement. I'm a huge fan of these laptop stands because they're completely flexible. They're really amazing. They're lightweight, and you can collapse it, throw it in a suitcase, throw it in a bag, and bring it like you saw in that other photo. Okay, let's get some work done. So there are a number of reasons that I'm adamant about playing in this virtual space. And for me, virtual also includes paperless for leverage purposes, like having access to my everything from anywhere and on multiple devices is a huge win for me as a control freak. Space saving, not a single document that's been created is sitting on any of my technology. So both of my laptops have nothing on them. All of their files are in the cloud. So I live in this space saving environment because now I can buy a laptop. My laptops are from 2017, but they're my favorites. I upgraded to these 2017 laptops during pandemic because they're 2 pounds. They're super lightweight. That's important to me. When I travel, when I speak, I bring both of them with me. All about having a plan B, a backup plan. I can work from my tablet, but it's not nearly the same experience. It's getting there, but it's not nearly the same experience as working from my laptops. So as soon as you can afford to have 2 of your favorite things, have a second one. Then God forbid something happened to the first one, like my trackpad is not working on the laptop to my right. So I have portable external keyboard and mouse. So those travel with me too. I have to take this guy in so that his trackpad can be repaired. And while he's gone, I will not miss a beat because I have my other one up and running, right? So I think that that's really important. From a security perspective, we're still working on a game plan for that, meaning unless you have access to my computers, you don't have access to my data, right? So even if you steal my laptop, unless you have access to my iTunes username and password, you won't even be able to open the laptop. It's a paperweight. And I've got a great story, but no time to share it today because I've got this chock full for you of how my laptop was stolen and I was back up and running in less than 45 minutes. The freedom and flexibility to take my tech and work from anywhere, including inside a pool. Accessibility, meaning, again, just that control, having it right there, having it on multiple devices. Transaction management for me and my peers on the other side of a deal, and for the peers on my team, right, is all of us having access to that data, and just the efficiency of it being in the same space at all times. I know where it is, I know how to access it. blah, blah, blah. Okay. Moving right along. Come on, tech. My favorite thing to say about technology is that I love it when it works, and I love it when it works again. So today we're going to walk you through some tips and tricks. But since we're talking about Zoom, since we're on Zoom, let's start there. Let's start with Zoom. I highly recommend, if you can afford it, or get a ancillary buddy, get a lender, get a home inspector, get somebody in your world that's not a RESPA violation, and have them pay for it or go Dutch on it, and then thank them as part of your Zoom in some kind of branding or in your marketing. This Zoom brought to you by, Women's Council Realtors Florida edition. Thanks for my mug, by the way, purposely using it today. Thank you. I also like to say that I can't hear you because you're all muted. So if you need to burp or fart or hiccup or sneeze, feel free to unmute yourself so that I know there's a human being on the other side. But what I recommend with Zoom is paying for the lowest level, right? It's $14.99 or discounted for a year if you pay it up front. Then immediately when you log into your account, go into your settings, and there are some settings that I'm going to want you to update right away, right? So everyone gets their account and they're like, oh, I didn't pay for the version that allows me to go live on Facebook. Well, you actually did, but you have to go into the back end and tweak some settings so that you're giving permission for Zoom to access these different things, right? So there's a waiting room that you can activate or not activate before any meeting as part of your generic settings. You have a private Zoom room once you pay for the monthly fee. I use that thing constantly, and I'll share a little bit with how I use that in my management of my day and my schedule. You have access to polls, creating those before a meeting, creating them live while you're in a meeting. You can go set up settings to go live to social media like Facebook, like YouTube, and some other ancillary third parties. You can control whether everyone that enters a room enters with their audio off, which we highly recommend, just because all the ancillary noises, right? So if people were still coming into this room right now and their audio was on, A, we yell at them for being late, but B, they could be a distraction to us as we're trying to cover some quality content. The chat feature, whether people can save it down or not, whether you automatically save it down or not, the screen sharing, whether it's on or off, and if your guests can screen share, or if it's just a host and a co-host, etc. There's a whiteboard. If you're not familiar with the whiteboard, it's pretty fun and great to use with family and young kids who like to draw and doodle. Lots of tic-tac-toes been played on my whiteboard with Thomas out of Delaware. Renaming, you can control whether your guests can rename themselves. I don't know why anyone would turn that off, because I think it's really important that people be able to show up and represent who they are. While we're there on the subject of renaming, even Florida, this is a great example because you're covering the whole state. If you guys in your renaming, like for me, I try to constantly say Sam Powell, Realtor Chicago, and neither one of mine are saying that right now. But that's my general practice, and I won't fix it while I'm with you guys right at this moment. But be mindful of that. If you're coming into a Zoom room that has networking opportunities, make sure people know, like if you're a lender, make sure it states you're a lender. If you're a sponsor of that event, give yourself props for being the sponsor, but be mindful of the opportunity to showcase where you're from and where you conduct your business, okay? Virtual backgrounds, of course. Closed captioning, that's kind of a neat one. You can have it closed caption me right now while I'm talking as an example. And in the recorded video that it saves, if you choose to save it, you can tell it to keep that closed captioning on or off, for example. So those are just a couple of things that Zoom has to offer. Let's go just very briefly. You guys are not novice at getting your face on a Zoom call now, but what is important is if you care about the quality of what you look like, is having the right technology solutions for that. So in my setup, there are two things that are important to point out. One is I've got a third-party camera that was recommended by our very own Marky Lemons, who teaches a lot of classes around the country about technology and video and production, self-promotion stuff. So this is a camera she recommended. It works just fine. I like it. I'm not complaining. I've tried 4 cameras. The one she recommended by far has been the best. And I also have an 18-inch ring light that is dialable, so I can control its brightness and density. So for example, we could tone that bad boy down just a little bit, and hey, look, I look amazing. You're welcome. So lighting is cool. Your appearance, if you're going to choose to show up in the Zoom room, come as you are, right? So if you don't have makeup on, who cares? If you're wearing a shirt, we appreciate it. But just be mindful of how you're showing up in the room, how you're entering the space. Your background, whether it's virtual, a nice clean curtain, or something with some personality, right? So during the pandemic, this wall has transformed quite dramatically over the past couple of months because I was just like, it's going to be seen quite a bit. I might as well enjoy it too when I see myself on screen, right? You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, there is a little bird. We also have the capability for green screen. They're just clipped up there and I can unroll the green screen and do a virtual background. Here's the kicker. Zoom is very particular about your technology. So your laptop or your desktop has to be a certain level of technology. Sadly, my 2017 laptops, which are my favorite until Matt comes out with a newest gadget for me, they won't let me do virtual backgrounds that have video. So that's kind of sad. But it will let me do a virtual background with a green screen if I'm nicely lit. So my condo, all of my windows are to my left. There's no natural light coming from my right, which is why I have the ring light to just better balance me and give me some proper lighting. Then I also have, it's not in use at this moment, but I also have a freestanding light. Do you see that light? It's like a traditional photography light that you can buy on Amazon, super cheap. I think I paid 40 bucks and change for it. It will allow me with the green screen to be down to flood light across that side as if it was a big window like I have on the left side. Because what's key for your green screen virtual backgrounds is the lighting. The more even and distributed the lighting is, the better your green screen technology is going to work effectively, right? And on Zoom, it's super sophisticated in that if I wanted a virtual background right now, I can say, hey, Zoom, pick this green. Right? So on my lighting that's flooding behind me, I can say, how about this green, and see how it eliminates my background, how my hair pops, how I'm presented on the screen. So you just keep picking a different spot on your green screen until it looks as good as you want, and then just settle with it for then. For me, light is constantly changing on this side of my condo all day long. So throughout the day, if I was using a virtual background, I have to keep telling it, okay, now this darker green, because it's darker in here or whatever. So just play with the technology. Don't be afraid of it. You can't break it, but experiment. Because if you really like the idea of having a virtual background, by all means, we can make that technology work for you. So if you want to talk offline about that, we can too. Eye level, we're going to talk about a little bit later, but perspective, like how you choose to position in front of the frame. If you have a virtual background that's custom and you need to be off center a little bit to showcase what you're showcasing, whether it's a sponsor or something, just being mindful of those things. Eye level makes a really nice difference, right? So instead of it shining up my nose or shining down on top of my head or face, trying to be mindful of what you look like in the frame. And then obviously the audio, right? So I'm ridiculous in my house. I think I probably have 6 different technologies to connect a headphone or wireless headset. I love like Apple iPads that have noise canceling. They tend to work pretty good, but I've had some issues with them dropping off during a Zoom call, and that stresses me, especially if I'm an instructor. I've got over-the-ear Beats headphones that are also noise canceling because I have the dogs and the barking and, you know, people coming and going behind me to our balcony sometimes during the week. And then I also have this, I highly recommend, something you can plug in, right? So right now I'm plugged in because when I tested it with Jolie Waldeck, hey Jolie, thanks for joining us, earlier today, we decided this was my best audio quality to teach from. So speaking of Jolie, in our test earlier, did you know that you can go to zoom.us/test when you're not on a Zoom call and see what you look like? You can test your audio, you can test your microphone, and you can test what your video looks like so that you can do the proper tweaking before you actually join us in a room. Or test with a buddy. So that's what I did today is I just shot her a text. I said, hey, can I run a Zoom test with you real quick? Because I wanted her advice on font sizes on some of my slides, because she always picks on me that my fonts are too small. And I have a private room like we all will as soon as you pay for the minimal version of Zoom. And so I have a custom URL that I made through TinyURL that I can send to anyone at any time. So if Christine was like, hey, Sam, I'd really like to Zoom with you right after this call to debrief, I could send her that link and she could meet me in that room. Now there's a little bit more to that, but not much. If I typed in the chat right now, hashtag and the word Zoom, this is what it would paste in the Zoom for her, right? So now she'd have access to the URL to go to, the password if it asks for one, and meeting ID. How ironic. We just talked about someone needing a meeting ID. The meeting ID, which is my cell phone number, on purpose, by design. So I want my Zoom to reflect that it's me they're meeting with. I want my password to reflect that it's me. It's all my Ask for Sam stuff. And why not make the meeting ID your cell phone number, right? So those are just a couple of nugget takeaways. Here are some of my must favorite things, favorite haves that people ask me about all the time. Like in my bag of tricks, here's what you would find. 2 laptops, an iPad. The iPad with the new keyboard that they have, that new keyboard is badass. Sorry to cuss, not sorry, but it is really just optimal, amazing. It doesn't need to be powered. It doesn't need to be charged. It's magical because it never needs me to connect it into anything. As soon as my tablet lays on it in a certain way, it charges, it connects, provides power to the keyboard. It's really flipping fantastic. Best 90 bucks I spent in Vegas while visiting Jolie recently, actually. I also have, like I showed you, an external keyboard and an external trackpad. Both of those are wireless and USB charged. So they'll last several weeks before I have to plug them in again. And my computer will tell me the battery life on those. So every once in a while, I just plug them in at night. Otherwise, I don't like all the distractions of the cables. And so I remove those just for my own visual concentration. If we're talking about Wi-Fi and connectivity, I currently have a Sprint phone with its own hotspot, a tablet. My tablet is Sprint and has its own hotspot and cellular service. So if my phone, if I leave it somewhere, not likely, but my tablet can function without me having an extra Wi-Fi device. So if I want to just run out the door very quickly for a client meeting or just hang out at the beach, I might bring my phone, my tablet, that's it, right? Super light travel solution, but it having its own service makes a nice difference. I also have an AT&T burner phone, and I say it that way because I never thought I'd have a second phone, and I wouldn't have a second phone except when I was in Florida and had bad connection. AT&T, you could not buy a hotspot. If you right now tried to go out and buy a hotspot from any of the major carriers, because of pandemic and issues getting things shipped into our country, that's one of the things we're seeing an issue with. And here's why it doesn't matter. In talking to the techs at AT&T, and I choose AT&T because my nationwide coverage with that is way better than Sprint. But I've been with Sprint since 1999, and I'm not changing that service, but I've just added on the AT&T for a hotspot purpose only. But if you get a phone just for your hotspot as a burner phone, secondary phone, it actually is better technology than the third-party hotspot. So forget about hotspots altogether. That moved all on its own. That was weird. What's happening over here? I'm not doing that, by the way. Live video. Okay. Some ghost wanted me to speed up, apparently. Jolie Handler, were you trying to tell me to do this? What's happening? So having secondary backup solutions for your Wi-Fi connectivity, that has to be one of the most important ones, right? Because if you can't function, you can't function. And then there goes your stress. The very next image are tiny little lights that you can stick to the back of your laptop. So if you're somewhere at even a Starbucks and the lighting is awful and you want a little pop of light, super affordable, super portable. I super love it. The digital camera I mentioned, the stands for my laptops that I travel with, having power, having a secondary power, because as you know, cables go bad, connectors go bad, have a backup. I'm a big fan of external batteries too. One of the reasons I chose these laptops is I can connect it for power to any USB charger on the planet, any USB charger, plug in USB, charging my laptop. I think that's pretty magical. Gives me a lot of flexibility and freedom to work remote from my house for a full 24 hours if I needed to with the battery supplies that I have. Headphones we talked about. Here's the 3 that I love. My Beats over the head noise canceling, my AirPods that are noise canceling, and the ones that I've got right now that are plugged in, of which I own 4 of. 2 that are traditional plug-in headsets and 2 that plug into Apple devices, meaning that new port that they make you have. a charging station for all your nonsense. You should see me every night. Doesn't matter how much I've had to drink. I kid you not. I've got a rule. Everything's got to be plugged in and charging, especially at conferences, so that when you get up the next morning, you put everything in your bag and you head off to your conference. So don't have poor battery management. I like to tease my friends at conferences who always ask me to access my Wi-Fi, because as you might have guessed, if you were at my condo right now and looked for Wi-Fi, you would see 3 Ask for Sam Wi-Fis available right now. And I call them askforsam.com-realtor on purpose. So no matter where I am in the country or the world, if my Wi-Fi is activated, hotspot even, someone can pull up and see, oh, there's a realtor somewhere in here, askforsam.com. What's that? As you can imagine, my tech is also branded, so they can see my laptop cover and be like, oh, that's the realtor, and then approach me. Works great at conferences when your buddies want to borrow your power as well. So having power solutions, cable management solutions, and then I just went on to swag, obviously, because I think that's fun. And I had extra spots for photos. Protect yourself from yourself if you are going to be traveling for a conference or creating sort of a mobile office bag solution for yourself. I'm a bag whore, like I have an addiction to bags. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And so I have to pick the bag I want to use that day. And I work from a digital checklist so that I don't forget something, because it's so frustrating to not be able to function because you forgot one of your cables, as an example. So build a solution for yourself. I'm just going to bust through this. I just think it's kind of interesting that paper was invented by the Chinese back in 105 AD. Computers started in 1970s. I was born 1973, so right about a nice time. And in 1993, Acrobat came out with the ability to build digital documents comfortably and easily. I wasn't in real estate yet, but answer me this question if you would. When did, and the first person to get the answer right in the chat, we're going to have to find a way for you to win something. But what year did electronic signatures become legal in real estate? Go.
2017, 20. There's a lot of answers there, Sam.
2020.
I haven't seen it yet. 2020. Nice. All right. So having not seen the answer, oh, Danielle, getting closer. We have to wait for like 97 people to answer. Okay, you're so cute. I have not seen the answer yet, but ironically, there it is, 2002. Who's my first one? Rory Dublin. Yeah. Guess also what year I started real estate. New test question, same answer. So I think, how ironic. Sam loves paperless, electronic documentation. Why not join an industry at the time that this is legal right then, the day I entered the industry? Now ask how long it took people to actually embrace it as a technology and a mainstream solution. Oh, boy vey. So just another tip trick that I really love about management of devices. And so this is what is magical for me for each of my laptops, my phone, and my tablet. And I'm going to have a Apple desktop, tiny little mini guy too, just as a third backup. But I just have a backup addiction. Don't worry about it. But what I love about Google Chrome and why I mention it is once you log in, and so in the upper right-hand corner, you see my tiny little black and white photo of my face right above other bookmarks. That's how I know I'm logged in. Nothing fancy there. But what I like to share is because I log into Chrome, I let it save my usernames and passwords for all of the things that I use on a daily, is when I log in, no matter what device, I don't have to remember a password. I don't have to go to a third-party solution to look up what my password was. Important things like that to me. It's all about, I have this addiction to efficiency, if that makes sense. And I want it to be easy. I want it to be, cohesive from one device to the other. If one laptop goes down, I don't want to struggle with the other laptop to be like, oh, damn, I don't have the username and password set up. So all of the other web browsers have a similar solution. So you don't have to use Chrome. I'm just saying it's my addiction. So let's talk about other things that you can do with software like Chrome. Add-ons, fun add-ons that you can add. My favorite one right now is the one we're going to touch on, is if anyone in this room, 98 of you minus 2 of me, there's 96 of you, is if you took this URL and put it somewhere If at any time down the road, you were like, I'd really like 15 minutes with Sam. If you went here, you could pick a 15-minute conversation with me, and it would allow you to pick an open slot on my calendar anytime in the next 60 days. It's completely versatile, flexible. I'm addicted to it. It's my newest addition to my toolbox since the pandemic. It's super customizable. So I have a 15, a 30, a 60, and a 2-hour, so that across the country, someone can hire me for a class by just finding a 2-hour window that they want to plug me in that works. You can control how early in the day. I currently am not allowing anyone to schedule any time with me on any Sunday, just so that I can carve that out for, you know, a play day with the family and the furry kids, etc. And if someone needs to meet with me and I'm willing to use that time, then I would just add it to my calendar myself. But it allows you to control how much time before and after a meeting is scheduled. So I've padded that with at least an hour before or after, so that I can prepare for a meeting and have some downtime after a meeting, or get in my car and go to another meeting. Just being mindful of how you manage your day. There's a free version, so feel free to check that guy out. I do the pro version, and only because I have more than 2 calendars that I want to sync to it. And the $8 a month one will let you join 2 calendars. With the pro for $12 a month, I can have 6, which means I can have my team also on that calendar, which is quite fantastical for when we are working with leads, and leads can schedule on a peer's calendar, and I can be made aware of it for follow-up and etc. And if we're going to have team meetings, we can, either one of us can look at the availability, which I think is pretty user-friendly. Now that I have this Calendly app, I link it to everything. So it's in my intro on Facebook. It's in my signature right before you, I need to upgrade that photo, but who cares? But I promise you, it's in my signature right above. Click here to do a Zoom call with me as well. The other thing that I have an addiction to from this efficiency perspective, I didn't touch that, is the ability to template everything, right? So templated emails, wise decision, templated market analysis, whatever you're doing. But let's take it one step further. And since we're on our phones so much, and if you find yourself typing the same text message more than once, the ability to do that in a quick and dirty key command shortcut, how fantastical. So I'm just going to show you a couple of those. But first, I don't care if you're Mac or PC, on your computer keyboard, laptop keyboard, there are a ton of key command shortcuts that you can integrate. Zoom has a key command shortcut as an example. They've got a ton of them if you wanted to memorize them. One of the ones that's important to note is if you're muted, so you guys can test this right now, because you're muted. If you press and hold your space bar, it should show you that you've been temporarily unmuted. And so you can be in a meeting and stay muted the whole time. Press the space bar when technology wants to play nice. Like when I said, if you're going to burp or fart, you just hit that space bar and let it rip. So I know there's a human being over there. If I say something funny, you're like, she's never going to hear me, hit your space bar and then they'll hear you. And then you've protected yourself because you're muted again. Anyway, just a quick little takeaway. My background happens to be photography, digital imaging, historical image restoration, Photoshop for many, many, many years. I got to travel the world and go to Photoshop conferences paid by my company. So fun. Anyway, key command shortcuts like a champ. So my poor little hands are going to be arthritic just because of my addiction to key command shortcuts. Best little known secret, not so much a secret anymore, is, again, I already mentioned it, there's nothing on these laptops. I could throw both of these into the Chicago River, go buy brand new laptops, and just log into my cloud service providers, and everything, I'd be functioning in a hot second. My email is through an Exchange server through my company. All my docs, I'm a big Dropbox kid, so they're all on Dropbox. If I log into those 2 things, and because it's not going to store it on my computer, I'm back up and running that quickly. So there I am showing off dot loop for electronic signatures. I'm addicted to. That's supposed to be a Dropbox logo, but don't hold it against me because I love dot loop too, obviously. One of my shortcuts that I love to share in this day and age of paying for our own data. So the hotspots, right? Now I have a ton of hotspots. Now I have to pay for data for each of those hotspots. So I try to buy the minimum data packages, knowing that I try not to use them unless I absolutely have to. So there are ways to, in an email, for example, and I'll show you an example, to instead of attaching a single file, I don't attach a single file to emails unless I absolutely have to, because I will provide the link to the folder of files or to the direct link to that file, and write an email, paste the shortcut to that file and hit enter. I have to wait for nothing to attach. I have to wait for nothing to upload. And you on the other side have to wait for nothing to come through your Exchange server or security settings, because it's a link embedded into the email for you. And it makes it that much easier. I forget why I did this. I think it was my stuff being stolen. It's okay. And then I had this great experience in Florida, not at all, where my laptop decided to misbehave and I needed to rebuild it. And my sister had Wi-Fi problems that particular day, the day I needed to be back up and running. And so we were just like, okay, so now we need like a plan C, plan D, plan F. What do we do? We went to buy a hotspot. That gave us trouble. We ended up having to buy it the next day. But what I learned, which I thought was a really cool trick, is, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, let's try Starbucks. Even though they're not allowing people to come in and sit in their restaurants throughout the country, generally speaking, you could sit outside a Starbucks and have access to Wi-Fi, right? I could sit outside any of my real estate offices and have access to their strong Wi-Fi because I can log into it. So being mindful of that, if you Googled on your phone who has the best Wi-Fi in your area, those are the places you go as your plan B, plan C, right? I'm not a big fan of sitting at Target, for example, in their cafe. But if it came up as the best place, Whole Foods makes sense to me that they'd be a good one. Walmart, I don't want to sit at Walmart, I got to tell you. But if I needed to in a pinch, I sure would. Burger King's higher on the list than McDonald's. I find that embarrassing, McDonald's, but I'm just going to say. I think marketing yourself using the technology. So we're going to talk a little bit about like virtual tours. How do you work from your desk and still accomplish what you would be accomplishing if you were out in the field showing buyers, showing sellers? As they mentioned, I haven't put a buyer in my car since 2013. Game changing, life changing. I got more than half of my life back because of the time it takes to work with buyers. So building a team, the first person I wanted to add to my team was that buyer's agent so that I could feed them those leads. We have a negotiated split for those. If I bring in the lead, the split is this. If my buyer's agent brings in the lead, the split is reversed and he makes more money. So we try to just be mindful of that. But using technology like, I don't know if this guy will play for you, but I'm hoping it will. Drone, interior, like exterior drone technology has been around for a little while. So I've been using that. So if there's a building or a development or a community that you do a lot of business in, by all means, pay for a drone technology company to come out and do an experience for you, right? So for example, the building I live in, I tend to do, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 20 deals in the building a year. And from rentals to working with sellers to buyers that want to buy one of the listings, for example. And so I had my drone company do just a all encompassing exterior of the building. So if you live on the north end of the building, here's what your views are going to look like. And here's what the building looks like on the north side, north, south, east, west, and the environment and the community. So now every time I do a listing in the building, I just use that same exterior drone, right? It's obviously not going to play the video, but let me just tell you, I'll put the link in the chat before we go, if nothing else. If you haven't seen an indoor drone tour of a property, it's the newest, latest, and greatest tech. And it's badass. It's amazing. It's super fun. And I have an addiction to trying new things. So this particular screen in front of you is nothing but a Canva template. And then I drag and drop the video in, drone video in this case, but you get the idea. Same thing with Matterport. Matterport will create a very short, quick and dirty video for you. Again, I don't think it's going to play just because of the bandwidth. Oh, this one might actually play. So this is just a video of your Matterport and it walks you through the property. So it's kind of like a fake drone experience in a way, but the drone version is so much more powerful. I just can't tell you. So I'd love to share both of the links of the drone and the Matterport video so you can see what I mean and why I still do both. I almost never promote this anymore, even though they make them for me for free, because I'd rather they see the drone, which is super smooth and beautiful, as a pre-visit to a property before we take them in there personally. And then the Matterport, the 3D walkthrough that is this same technology, allow them to visit and stay in each of the spaces as long as they want to. While I'm here, because I forgot to put it in the slide, but I'm glad I thought of it, I highly, highly recommend on every one of your listings, I don't care the price point, trying to do a Matterport if you can, the one where you can walk through and, you know, get close to the windows and really see some finite detail. Because I have had, not kidding, three closings where I'm at the closing table, final walkthrough has happened, and the buyer or buyer's attorney or buyer's agent has some issue that they think they found at the final walkthrough that they now want to discuss a credit for at closing. And I was able to take the photos that they provided, look at our photos that we had taken. The photos never gave me the answer. You know what gave me the answer all 3 times? Matterport. I was able to show there was already that crack in the window that they were trying to charge us for before it even hit the market, because the Matterport was created before we went live. It was there before they saw it for the first time. So crack window, don't have to replace it. They had an issue with a threshold. They thought there was some wood damage and that threshold should be replaced, as well as a little bit of some hardwood flooring by a back door. The photos, again, I couldn't get detailed enough to see what was going on, but Matterport, I could go right up to the threshold and look down, do a screenshot and show them the issue they had was there before they ever saw the property, as an example. It's fantastic. And then lastly, this one didn't save my client money, but we worked it out. My owner had taken all of the drapes and rods from the house, and the buyer was like, we wrote into the contract the drapes and rods need to be there. And how we use the technology for that was to be able to show them the quality, the level of quality of the drapes and the rods. And so we were either going to provide them a credit for replacement Target versions, because that's where they had bought them. Instead, I kid you not, my sellers from Florida put all of them back in a box from every one of those rooms and shipped it back to the new owner at said property, all through the use of Matterport to sort of just save a headache and a deal. And the last thing I like to use, because I want a floor plan created from every one of my listings, is VizHome is my favorite solution for this, because they draw a floor plan, they take a photo from each corner. So now it's an interactive floor plan where, depending on how you like to, how you learn, how you play in spaces, depth perception, you can put furniture in the 3D tour. You can see each one of the images and walk through the home differently. You can see the dimensions as they've been drawn for that spaces. Anyway, those are my must for every listing. Interior drone that comes with exterior drone footage, Matterport, the 3D interactive tour, and it works with Google Cardboard. Cheapest solution you can get yourself a couple Google Cardboard boxes. You can have those branded, so maybe you brand them to your company. You go to a pre-listing presentation on your phone, you bring up one of your 3D Matterports, you put it in the box, you hand them the box. They can see that they can literally walk through visually by just visually looking through Google Glass. Anyway, I love it. So emailing links and transferring files instead of attaching them. Dropbox, that's my go-to jam for that, is the link. I can always just add the link, or I find every once in a while a lender will have some issues getting all the condo docs and bylaws and the contracts and the riders. We've got 10 minutes left. Wow, it's going by fast. And so you can transfer. So remember way back in the day, PFT websites where you'd upload a file and then the person would go there and download the file. It's that same game, just a link right in the email, but it takes them to a transfer instead of a link to the files. You can also, I'm sure I'll touch on this, tiny URL, create a unique URL for that folder. And I do that a lot for every one of my listings that has condo docs, bylaws, rules and regulations, meeting minutes. I will keep that folder. I'll grab that link, go to tinyurl.com, create a custom link to 165 North Canal building docs. And then that link I embed in agent remarks to my peers on the other side that basically says, you know, before submitting any and all offers, please review and share this link with your buyer so they know the financials with regard to the building. This was just a reminder to us that it's very little use of data, because it's only needing what you were doing in your email, right? So if you're not attaching files, you're saving a ton of data. So here's just a mini example of what I just stated. So top of the screen, this might be a broker, private agent remarks. There's the tiny URL for 165 North Canal, building docs, tells you a little bit about it, but that's what I want my clients to see. And then just, again, a concept of templating. This is an email. I am adamant about, especially since I'm on the listing side and I'm getting everyone's contact information on a contract. I don't always get the buyer's contact info, but I don't care. But what's important to note is I send the contract, the documents from the building, anything and everything related to the building in one single email to every party that I have contact information for. And I simply say, don't reply all unless you intend to communicate with all parties in a single email. Please find a link, see link, but now I kid you not, this should be updated. It's a transfer. I always just default to transfer now so that I don't get someone saying, hey, I can't download them. Here's the property, here's the link, and here's what's going to be in the folder. Here's what the folder contains. And it's so easy to just open a folder, copy it, and then if I paste that in a text document as raw text, I can paste it in an email. I didn't type these things out. It's a straight up copy and paste. Anyway, so just being templated. Another way to use a templated solution to preview properties, rentals. The last thing I want to do is waste my time or a peer's time showing an unrepresented renter. So the first thing they get from me is a video walkthrough of the unit, a link to the details of the unit, details about, and a link for our rental application process, which you can see as a tiny URL. And then if they go through those steps and still want to see the property in a private tour, then below it, it says, reach out to Joe, reach out to my business partner, because I'm not showing you. My addiction to tiny URL, once you create a tiny URL, use it like crazy. Like even your conference this, I almost said this weekend, even your conference this week, creating a tiny URL to the registration or a tiny URL for Tuesday's Zoom link, Sam's class link, whatever you want to do, know that you can personalize it. So instead of that long Zoom link, that it is a, simple, elegant, tells you what it is, why you'd be clicking on it. So there's just some examples there. Very quickly, text replacement. I talked about it a little bit earlier when I said hashtag Zoom and it typed, here's Zoom, Sam's Zoom info. On Apple, I'm addicted to this technology in this way because they all interact together. I don't have any ancillary Android tool or device in my toolbox. And in part, because of just how beautifully they play with each other, know that if you have a mixed relationship with your technology, that's okay. Don't fret it. Just ask Google how to get A and B to play with each other. I'm not saying everyone has to go Apple. Trust me, I hear you. But know that Google can answer some of those questions, and playing on sites like if this, then that could be useful and helpful. Here's some key command text replacements. And the reason I wanted to show this as just a quick and dirty screen capture is when you create a shortcut, especially on Apple for me, is like my Zoom, it's hashtag Zoom, because I type the word Zoom from time to time. And if I just type Zoom, it would say, do you want me to paste this thing? And I'm like, no, I didn't mean for you to paste all of that. And it's annoying to remove it. So if you put a hashtag before your little cheat on what you type for what it's going to populate it with, I found putting the hashtag has been a lifesaver for me. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm a big advocate of peer-to-peer education, and using these key command shortcuts has come in handy in my career. For example, if you schedule a showing on my listing, and I'm an advocate for making sure that you are reminded that you have a legal responsibility and obligation to be at the property with the client, to be the one accessing the property, to be the one securing the property. So in my listing, it tells you in the agent remarks your standard of practice 1-16. It tells you in the showing instructions once you confirm a showing. And if you ask me for a one-day code, I will send you a screenshot of your one-day code as well as hashtag ethics, and it will absolutely populate everything you see under that standard of practice 1-16. That is a key command shortcut for me. I use another one that I use often for our standard of practice is offers. We get asked all the time, do you have any offers on the property? Before saying anything else, I will immediately say #offers. It will populate that standard of practice to remind my peer on the other side that without my seller's permission, I can share nothing with them about offers that we may or may not have. And however they want to infer from that information is entirely up to them. I may very well have, and many of you probably do this too, have already talked to your seller about, if I have an offer and someone asks me, may I handle that conversation in this way? And you just counsel them on, when this happens, can I have your permission to do this? When this happens, can I have your permission to do this? Let's face it, our peers are not necessarily behaving in that same mindset. So educate them. Create these kinds of things. If you're having these conversations again and again, use something like that. This is just a sample of showing time. You can see here's all the stuff they needed to know, including COVID stuff, where parking is, exercise facility receiving, and then the standard of practice right at the bottom. Very quickly, because we are legit seriously running out of time quickly, is if you have a marketing team, use them, right? Now, I have a marketing team and I still do a lot of my own hands-on stuff. And it's just because I like to, and I have the technology in the palm of my hands. So be mindful that if it's not your lane and it's not a money-making adventure or something that you really enjoy doing, leverage it off to someone else. Get it off of your plate as quickly as possible. But if you do love playing in technology, a couple of things we want to point out is Canva for awesome designing and templating. If you pay for the paid version, there's a lot of flexibility and opportunity there, access to a ton of stock images, the ability to drop out a background, which I use quite frequently, and just a lot more enhanced use and tools, understandably. Pixlr, Pixlr.com. If you want to do some quick and dirty editing of an image, more advanced than what you can do on your phone, playing with levels, etc., with my photography background, it's a really good resource to do some of that kind of stuff. Allows you to do layering, not unlike Canva, but a different kind of sophistication in layering of images, for example. Video editing. We harp on doing videos. People always ask, well, where do you edit your videos? Oftentimes just right on my phone. In all of our phones, if you open the video, you will have the ability to do some minor quick and dirty editing. On Apple, I like to remind people that anything you do to enhance an image on your phone, you can do the same settings to enhance a video. So I can brighten it. I can bring details out of the shadows and the highlights. I can, I can't change the depth of field, but there are so many things you can do. I highly encourage you enhancing every image, every video before you post it, because you can make something good look even better. So quick and dirty example, the original image far left. First thing I did was in editing, because I had taken it in portrait mode, which allows me a lot more flexibility and creativity, is I blurred the background. And then I just went through the settings on the bottom and adjusted the highlights, brought some highlight detail, brought some shadow detail, added some brilliance in tweaking, and my black point. Those things I tend to do on almost any and every image you see that I post. And the same thing with the video in the upper right-hand corner. That guy is actually a video. You can see the water running now. I can hear it in my ears now. Is you can enhance the video too, so that it really brings out the quality that you were trying to share. Be it social media, use what you use that's working for you. I don't care what you use. There's no rules or guidelines on what you have to use. That's why you're an independent contractor. Make your independent choices, but have some kind of solution for red lighting and green lighting, using that solution in your business or in your play space, right? Be intentional about your engagement. We highly encourage taking what's happening online and taking it offline, right? Bring those relationships into the real world, please. So send gifts, send cards, send personalized things that are meaningful to something you saw happening on Facebook in somebody's life. By all means, send swag, and then your peers will use the swag and it'll show up in your Zoom video. Lots of Zoom swag over here. Send custom video greeting. I can't harp on this enough. If you get a lead and you send back a generic, hey, thanks for reaching out, blah, 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 this is what we do. That's one answer. I'm not saying it's wrong. What about this instead? Hey, Sally, I just got your contact info from Christine from Florida. I just wanted to send a quick video and let you know there was a human being on the other side of that email that I just hit send on. And I'd love to set up a meeting to talk with you. In the email, I gave you a link to my calendar. Pick a time that works for you. I'd love to see you in person. We can do it on Zoom or a live phone call, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. We're running out of time. Jen and I, Jen, I don't know where that came from. She's outside. Jolie and I do a lot of classes. So if you're interested in classes, know that you can tap into us. More importantly than that, at this moment is every Thursday, we open up our afternoons to anyone that wants to come in and workshop anything. So you could come with an issue, a question, a concern, a project, and we will help workshop it with you, with anyone else who joins us in that room, because more minds are better than one. People ask me about email management, right? Who right now, we're over time. Do I have permission to go a minute or two more?
Yeah, and we do want to touch on some of the questions in the chat. So if you can stick around, we do would be mindful of everyone's time as well as yours.
Yeah, there's we're just gonna bust through these real quick. Email management, if you look on your phone and you have 13,000 emails, that's okay. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm absolutely gonna judge you. I'm just teasing. Everyone manages their, that layer in a different way. I get asked often because I'm an inbox zero kid. And so the way I manage that very briefly is immediately get rid of the trash. The spam is the first thing I deal with. Right in the morning on my phone, I've got a focused inbox because of the service I use, and then sort of a catch-all. And I go into the catch-all and I remove everything that's crap and trash. Then I go to my meaningful inbox and I get rid of crap that might be in there. And then if there's emails I need to respond to, I'll put them in a folder called ASAP. And if it's something I can knock out, I'll knock out. And if it's something that's just reference, I don't need to do anything, I throw it in a done folder. So done. I don't file or organize anything. It's just either goes in the trash, in a folder where I know I have to do something with it, or done, right? Get to me is stuff I never, ever, ever get to. It's like newsletters or ideas and concepts that I wanted to follow up on. And I'll go in there every once in a while and tend to just delete it. It'll either go into ASAP, or I'll actually provide a task to myself using my favorite to-do manager, Todoist. That's how my brain works, because I can drag and drop and reorganize, splice in new ones, remove ones at any time, and have intentional focus in my next hour, right? So if I know I have an hour, I'll be like, all right, Sam, focus on these things in this hour and nothing else. So here's just a quick and dirty sample. And I can't stress enough how important it is to be organized. And people ask me for this all the time. My clients are in a folder called clients, nothing fancy. In the client folder is my clients by first name followed by last name. And they're in the order of whomever I spoke to first the most, right? So if it's a lesbian couple, it's gonna be the chick that I talked to first about their relationship and their real estate needs. If it's a husband and wife team or heterosexual team, it's whomever I talk to first. Often I put the woman first because I'm just that way. But it tends to be whoever I might remember first, because that's how I'll find them. That's just how my brain works. And then within their folder, bottom left, is going to be whatever I'm working on for them, for the transactions that are appropriate for the now. And then within the client folder for that transaction, I'm very meaningful about how I name my files and make my team name our files, so that they're very consistent. And at any time, if I'm in his folder, I know what's in there. I know what's missing. I can tell if a disclosure is missing and hasn't been signed yet because it's not in all caps, right? So I do it for a number of ways for the way my brain happens to work. My must-have resources on the go. We already mentioned, so we've got Zoom, my calendar app, obviously your email, PDF, electronic signatures, dot loop, cloud storage, and a couple of decks of plastic cards because I have an addiction to playing cards. Biggest takeaways: be prepared, be virtual minded, be organized, be disciplined so you can be spontaneous. And that's my last slide.
Yay, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's amazing. There are some questions from the chat I wanted to get to real quickly, but if you have to sign off, go ahead and head out for our participants. I did see a couple of questions in the chat. Let me see if I can find them. There was one asking if you could share your, what is that called? They were asking about Google Glasses.
Oh, yeah, well,
Google Glasses, and this session is recorded and it's being also syndicated to Facebook. For those of you who came on late or want to rewind back and hear her presentation again, you can certainly do that. Google Glasses, and then there was another question, if you could reshare your hotspot information. And then another
right,
question, are you doing your own drone videos?
I love you. Here's the thing. My degree is photography, and I don't even take my own photos of my listings. I would love to own a drone and play with a drone, but I would always pay the experts to do all of my technology related to that, because they're going to have the newest lenses. They're going to have the newest and latest and greatest software updates, because that's their wheelhouse. So no, I don't do any of my own photography or drone video, anything. Except if anyone saw me do a video walkthrough of my sister's house in Florida and everyone thought I had special equipment. Nope. You can have your phone close to your chest and walk slowly. And I say horizontally because you can, and wide angle, because you can have wide angle on your iPhone, and just walk through as if you were your own Matterport, walkthrough. It's so easy and simple to do. This is a simple example of a Google Box. And so your phone slips in here, and your face slips in here. But cuter than that, these are like these I got at Target. Same idea. It's portable, fit in your pocket. So this is what I'll bring to a listing presentation for a consumer, because it's just, I think, a little more elegant. And the phone just clips here, nothing fancy, right? Phone just clips here so that they can sort of experience that same experience, but they aren't in a box, right? So if anyone's freaked out by that, so bring them both. But I think that's pretty badass, and where the technology has been for years. I've probably owned this bad boy for, gosh, at least 5-6 years now. It's ridiculous. What are the questions we got?
Sharing your information regarding hotspot. I'm not sure what the question was, but if the question doesn't get answered, we can always let me rewatch the session.
Well, let me touch on it this way, just in case it makes sense to. So I often get asked as a follow-up question, how do you change the name of your hotspot so that people can see it? And it's going to depend on the technology that you're using. It's often on a settings side, a settings end. So even your home Wi-Fi, you can change that label to say you're a realtor who owns and lives in the building if you wanted to, or you can keep that private and make it fun, like we see some of the fun ones that people have all over the country. But I always make them askforsam.com/realtor, all caps and with the little realtor, registered trademark, so that we're keeping it professional. They can go to my website without having to ever come and interact with me or interface with me. And I think it's just a nice little nugget to use these technologies in very meaningful ways. What else you got, Katie?
Will you share the camera and light products you have? And there's a follow-up question for that. The rough dollar amount of the technology you have in your toolbox when you go out and work virtually.
Wow. Well, I'm going to have to step up my game, because Marky Lemons already has me beat here. She's got a whole Amazon showcase of all the links of her favorite gadgets. So I'll make this promise to you. I will create said Sam's favorite things and ancillated pricing and resources, almost everything you can get on Amazon, let's face it. But I'm happy to put that together. And when you repost this video, I also am willing to share a PDF version of the presentation so that you can see it easily and user-friendly way, and include it in that. One of the last pages will be Sam's favorite things.
Amazing. Sam, thank you so much for your time today. We want to invite our Women's Council members to the next two events that we're having. Realtor Safety in a Pandemic World, that is happening today at 2:30. And then we have Happy Hour with Sarge, which is at 5 p.m. today. And then we will have the education sessions running tomorrow as well. I did add in the chat for everyone's convenience, the link tree. So you can go and register for all those events if you haven't already. And Sam, again, thank you so much for your time today. I know you have so much more to share. So if you want to stick around for a few minutes, maybe we can answer some more questions.
Yeah, I'm game.
Thank you. So thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you, Christine.
Yeah, just one other thing. We also have another networking room open. It is from 4 until 4:30. So the information to get into them is the same. So if you'd like to jump in there and see who's in there and, get to know one another and create a referral network, that would be awesome.
Is that after the happy hour?
No, it's before.
It's before. Okay, because I was going to say I'd love to be in there and keep the conversation going. But I'm happy to stay in this room because we've got a little bit of time before that happens, right?
We're probably going to need the room by we need to be out by 4:15. I mean, 2:15.
Which is, and it's 2 o'clock there now. So we only have 5 minutes in here. So
You have about 5 minutes. Yeah.
We might as well go to the other space.
Yep.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you want to do that, that's at 4 o'clock.
Or if anyone wants to go to my Zoom room, you know where to go.
Hey, girlfriend, do not be stealing my people. I need them in the other rooms.
Oh, you can't. You can't see me till later.
2:30 today. We have realtor safety in a pandemic world. That's our next education session. Again, Sam, thank you so much. We so appreciate you.
You guys are
so
awesome.
much more to give, I'm sure.
That's why I asked for 4 hours.
You can have a couple more during the happy hour. How about that?
Yeah, there
Well,
you go.
that sounds like that's going to be pretty chock full of
The
pre-planned
networking,
awesomeness.
the networking event is going to be the greatest, the best place for this kind of dialogue.
And Christine, is that the same link that is the happy hour link?
No, it is not. It is a
Okay.
separate link. Rebecca, if you're on the call, can you put those links in there, or are they part of the link tree that Katie already posted?
You can
Yes.
get through there through the link tree,
Okay.
or I can also put it here, but the link tree is the easiest one because it'll take you to each session.
Exactly.
You know, Sam, if you have a couple more minutes, anybody else have last minute questions? We're good on timing. Jen Cassetta is due at 2:30. So I guess just answer any last minute questions before we close out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one of the things that didn't make it into my slide deck, but I am making a mental note too, is I encourage, and if you've been on some of my other classes, I like to share things like my main screen on my phone is a QR code. And that QR code, for example, when I'm in my own Zoom room and I turn off my video, that image is what you see. And the reason I do that, and I encourage all of us to consider this as a potential solution for tech, is you can be in a networking room like this. If I was on my own Zoom, like if I was the host or a co-host, I could have my image be that QR code. You can pull out your phone, open your camera, have it read the QR code, and then it allows you an opportunity to add my contact info into your phone. But I'm not kidding. The card contact information, it's going in the chat right now. If I type #card, I know this shocks you very much now, but there's a tiny URL that takes you to a link that takes you to the same link that QR code would have taken you to. So for example, in a Zoom room where someone has joined on their phone, so they can't use their phone to get a QR code, you just send them the little quick and dirty link. So same thing, let's say we're in a room together networking from different parts of Florida, and you're like, let's stay connected, and we can't get the QR code to read for each other, who cares? Just share the little link. So I just would say, hey, what's your cell phone number, Katie? I'd type your cell phone number into a text message, and then I'd type #card, and it would spell out the tiny URL. And what you'd see on the other end, Katie, is a link you could click on, and it would say, would you like to add Sam Powell into your contact management? And you're just like, booyah, I do.
They say anything you do 3 times or more, you need to have a system for it. So that is spot on. Having the quick and easiest way to communicate, especially our contact information. That's great. There was one other question that popped up. Lynn from Jupiter, she wants to buy a webcam and is asking Logitech 922 or Brio. Brio?
I happen to have a Logitech, and it's the one that Marky recommended. So you just want to make sure that it's got really nice resolution. So what are we, 1080 or some crap? Yeah, 1080p. Anything like that. Just don't do this often because it's just not attractive. Okay.
Hi guys, I hate to be the bearer of party bad news, but we got to end
Kick
this
us out.
session.
All right. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you,
sessions.
Sam.
See us at
Thank you.
2:30. Bye.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Heck yeah.